All right, everyone, welcome back into another NBA DFS video. My name is Eric Polzin. You can follow me at 9to5 Sports. Going to be breaking down this Monday 9-game slate, and it is one that's packed with a lot of if-then statements, if you will. Lots of players that are currently questionable that could sit, and if they do, that would open up a lot of great values and a lot of great plays. So I'm going to go ahead and try to break it down for you guys with those if-then statements. Obviously, there are a few people that have already been ruled out, but it's going to be a crazy slate. So I just want to remind you guys to be in the Discord chat before lock. Link to that is in the description below. All right, let's get into the injury situation to start this video. So looking at it right now, we do know that the Thunder are going to be without Shai, and they're also going to be without Josh Giddey. That is big. And also you could tack on Bazley and also Robinson Earl. So with that, a player like Lorenzo Dort almost, I don't want to say becomes a lock, but becomes an extremely interesting play. We saw what he was able to do in the last game with those players out. 30 minutes and 41.75 DK points, which is right on pace with what he's done thus far this season with all those players off the court. His usage rate is 24.5%, and his fantasy point total is going to be 44 fantasy points per game with those players off the court. So he is someone I think we are firmly going to be playing. Then from there, Trey Mann, you certainly could play. Got to see if he's going to start or not, because last game it was Isaiah Joe that started and then ended up playing 26 minutes. If we can get Isaiah Joe playing, 20 to 30 minutes, this is a very cheap price point for him as well. He is someone that has a 24% usage rate with those four players off the court, and his per 36 total is going to be 44 fantasy points. Obviously, that's a big number. Obviously, he's not going to get 36 minutes, but still should be a strong GPP price point play. Then looking at Aaron Wiggins as well. Aaron Wiggins, 3 straight games of over 20 minutes, 3 straight games of over 20 fantasy points. He is someone that I think we are just going to be loading up on this slate, just given the price and given the fact that we can play him at guard and forward. His usage rate with those 4 players off the court is going to be 16.1, and his fantasy point total per 36 is going to be 32 fantasy points. So Aaron Wiggins firmly in play. He's someone I'm going out of my way to play. And let's continue on. Jalen Williams is someone you could play. He actually has the most minutes with those players off the court. Okay, but I don't feel like we can trust him. That's my biggest issue with him. Alexei is kind of priced up enough to the point where we have to think about it, although he would be an okay play. Kenyon Williams, if he is someone that's going to get 30 plus minutes, then he's an intriguing play. If he is starting, then he is someone I want to be looking at, but we got to see if he's going to start or not. Eugene is also a very strong kind of point per minute player. We can just see looking at his game log. 60 minutes, 19.5 DK points, 21 minutes, 27.7 DK points, 24 minutes, 28 DK points. So he is someone that should be a strong per minute player, but how many minutes is he going to get? That's the biggest question we have for him. So as it sits right now, I feel pretty comfortable with Wiggins and Dort, and then maybe Mann, maybe Joe, but there is a lot of OKC value out there. Now getting into the next big kind of injury news situation, we are going to be looking at the Minnesota Timberwolves. Okay, so just looking at it right now, Cat is out. Rudy Gobert currently questionable, sat out the last 2 games now. Was he ruled out yesterday because it was the front end of a back-to-back? Possibly. But now that Naz Reid is currently questionable, that could open up some huge value. Naz Reid left the game last night, and so I don't expect him to play. If Rudy Gobert plays, should be a strong price point play for you. If he sits, then we're looking at Nathan Knight as being an absolute stone-cold lock at this price point. We saw him get minutes last game against Chicago, 26 minutes, 23 DK points, which is right on par. He is someone that with Gobert, Reed, and Cat off the court, his usage rate is 22%, and his DK point total per 36 minutes is going to be 37. Okay. So he is definitely someone that would be a strong price point play, definitely would be a strong value. And then looking at Anthony Edwards, he has a 37% usage rate, and it's a small sample size, but he's averaging over 60 fantasy points per 36 with those 3 players off the court. Obviously, we don't depend on that. I would think Kyle Anderson would still be a decent play. Just he needs to get the minutes. Now, moving on into the Spurs. Keldon Johnson, I feel like is going to sit. Just kind of reading the reports, it seems like he is going to sit. So that would open up a ton of pretty good plays for the Spurs. We'd be looking at someone like Trey Jones. Trey Jones, his per 36 is very nice. And that's, I guess, the biggest question with the Spurs. It's are they going to get those minutes, those 36 minutes? Maybe, maybe not. But his usage rate is 23% with him off the court. And then his fantasy point total per 36 is going to be 39. Obviously, that's really good there. Devin Vassell, also someone that would be a strong price point play, averages 40 fantasy points per 36 with Keldon Johnson off the court with a 26% usage rate. Isaiah Roby could be someone that actually steps into more minutes, although I don't think so. I think that was more or less he was popping up minutes wise because we've seen Sochan be out. We have seen KBD be out. I think that's more of the reason why he was, kind of getting more minutes. Doug McDermott actually is the player that gets the most minutes with Keldon Johnson off the court. Averages about 20% usage rate with him off the court and averages about 28 fantasy points. I feel like we're going to get better value than this. Like, he is someone that you could plug in the morning, just knowing that you're going to be looking for someone in this price point range and then filling in when more better value opens up. Should be a decent play if Keldon Johnson sits. All right, moving on into the Lakers, guys. Looking at it right now, Anthony Davis is out. Gabriel's out. Okay. And then we also got news that Patrick Beverley's going to sit. So let's just look at that situation. And the question is LeBron going to play on the back end of a back-to-back? Is Russell Westbrook going to play on a back end of a back-to-back? I don't really know. We have seen LeBron play on the back end of a back-to-back thus far this season, so I'm kind of assuming he would, but also wouldn't be shocking if he sits. If he sits and Westbrook plays, I think we're just loading up on Westbrook. But if LeBron plays, we're looking at him again. 32% usage rate and 53 fantasy points per 36 with those players off the court. I expect him to score around 50 fantasy points. He'd be someone I think we would firmly be looking at to play. And then Russell Westbrook, I still think would be a decent play. Kind of struggled yesterday, and that was it. If he starts to hit some shots, a couple more shots, he really goes off yesterday. So it's the big question there. But yeah, he should be a strong price point play. Should have a nice safe floor for you. His fantasy point total per 36 with 80 off the court is over 40 fantasy points, and his usage rate is 30%. So obviously we like that. Austin Reeves is actually the player that sees the most minutes with Patrick Beverley and LeBron off the court, and AD off the court, not LeBron. We can see those minutes have been there for him, and the production has been there for him. Once again, this kind of feels like Doug McDermott as a play sits right now, because sure, on a smaller slate, would he be a great option? Yes, but this is a big 9-game slate. So I do think there's going to be better value that opens up throughout the day. So I don't know if we need to play him, although price point wise should easily be able to 5x. And that's kind of what he's been able to do. 24 fantasy points per 36 with those players off the court. So, the minutes are there as well, so you could look at him. Dennis Schroeder would honestly be an okay play as well. The last 2 games, over 30 minutes, over 20 DK points in those games. Obviously, as price point, that's something that you like. Thomas Bryant should be a very strong play. Should be chalky once again on this slate with 80 out and with Gabriel out. So he should be locked into getting around 30 minutes. He's going to be a strong center play on this slate. And then got 2 more if-then statements here, guys. I apologize. That's just the slate that we have. It's kind of just how we have to break it down. So looking at it, Luka could sit, and if he sits, it's simple as well. You're going Christian Wood, you're probably going Kemba Walker and Spencer Dinwiddie. Like, you're just putting in those players, especially if Tim Hardaway sits as well. I think Christian Wood's firmly in play regardless of if Luka sits, though. Just given the fact that Maxey is still out, we've seen Ben a very productive player with Maxey off the court just because the minutes are there more so. So, Christian Wood is firmly going to be someone I'm looking at regardless. All right, so now getting into the last bit of injury news on this slate, okay, we have the Phoenix Suns. So Devin Booker currently questionable with groin soreness, okay? And it's just like, if it is bothering him, they would sit him out. You don't want that to be a lingering issue, because it can be. So we'll see. We'll see if he's going to play or not. Obviously, we had a really strong night shooting the basketball 2 nights. If he sits, Chris Paul becomes a great play, Bridges becomes a great play, Josh Okogie becomes a great play. Like, you're just putting in a bunch of these players. Okay, so Josh, with just looking at Ayton, Lockdale off, Johnson off, and Payne off the court, because those players are all ruled out. He is someone that has a 21% usage rate and a fantasy point total per 36 of over 40. And the question is are those minutes going to be there? I think he makes for a strong GPP play. If he can get up to 30 minutes, that would be huge. I don't think we can depend on that, but as price point, someone I do think is a strong GPP play. Chris Paul is someone I feel like I don't want to say we have to play, because his ceiling's always a little bit capped, but it's per 36 with those players off the court. And then if you were to tack on the fact that we could potentially get Booker off the court, that would only kind of solidify his floor. But he has a 21% usage rate and a 48 fantasy point total per 36 with those players off the court. So also someone we'd be looking at. And then Bismack, if Ayton's out and if Landale's out, you're probably looking at Bismack. Saw 30 minutes in the last game. His per 36 average point total is 34. That's pretty good. So lots of injury news. There are lots of if-then statements, but I just wanted to give you guys all that information so that you guys will know where to pivot once the injury news starts to come in. So let's go ahead and let's get into the model now, talk about the values on that aspect of it. All right, so looking at it right now, looking at the OF index, the best play would be Luka if he plays, and then Joel Embiid, Giannis, Zion, no surprises there. I will say Sabonis going against Charlotte is highly appealing. We just saw Joel Embiid really go off against, was it Joel Embiid? No, it was Jokic last night go off against Charlotte. Obviously, Charlotte's been a team that we've been attacking this whole year via the center position, so I think Sabonis could easily go out and have a ceiling game. Let's go ahead and look at FanDuel value. Isaiah Joe. Yes, Isaiah Joe just going to be a standout play. And look at this. Basically, all of the OKC Thunder value that we were thinking is going to be there is there. Okay, it's popping up in the model as well. They're all projected to get solid amount of minutes, which they should. They're all going to be strong price point plays, and they're all cheap on both FanDuel and DraftKings, which is highly appealing. That's why I think we need to have probably at least 2 Thunder players in our builds just because there's so much value there right now. It'd be tough not to play them just given the amount of value that we have. And Nika popping up there for Atlanta on FanDuel. I guess same price point on FanDuel. That's not bad. That's not bad. Do you want to use your center position on him on FanDuel? That's tough. That's tough. We'll have to wait and see on the injury news elsewhere. Let's look at DraftKings value. So same players popping up there. Dennis popping up there a little bit more because he's still pretty cheap. So you could easily play him. Thomas Bryant, definitely more expensive on FanDuel. That's why he's not popping up there. But on DraftKings, I feel like we're being forced into playing him. So yeah, let's go ahead and just look at the ownerships now. Real quickly before we do that, let's just take a quick glance at the betting tab, look at the over and unders. Charlotte versus the Kings is going to be the biggest game that you want to attack. That's a huge over and under. And I wonder if LaMelo Ball is going to play on the back end of a back-to-back, just coming back from all those injuries. That's my biggest question mark there. Will Terry Rozier play? And I could see that potentially, dropping down that total. All right, so looking at the chalk for DraftKings, as it sits right now in this morning, looking at the OKC Thunder value that's out there, it makes sense. And then Thomas Bryant, it just kind of, this is the natural lineup path this morning. And so this is something where, honestly, guys, if there's a lot of injury news that pops up throughout the day, it should disperse the ownership out, spread it out, okay? And so if you make a good lineup, kind of like the lineup path I'm showing you guys already this morning, like it should still be a good build regardless of the ownership, because throughout the day on the 9-game slate, you just expect a lot more value to open up. As it sits right now, obviously OKC Thunder is the best value that's out there, so that's why people are loading up on them. Let's hope that does happen so we can get some ownership spread out. I do think it's the correct lineup path, though. Kevin Porter really popping up there, just given a cheap price point. LaMelo Ball, if he plays, yes, he would. I think he would be a strong play. 40 DK points, 3 straight games, obviously like that. Aaron Wiggins, I find this shocking that he's the lowest owned OKC Thunder thus far. That could be a spot to gain some leverage on the field. CP3 potentially as well. Let's go and look at FanDuel. All right, so who is chalk for FanDuel? Once again, still the OKC Thunder. We got Devin Booker popping up there because he's much cheaper there. That makes sense. Pascal Siakam, much cheaper on FanDuel than DraftKings, so he's popping up there as well. LaMelo Ball, cheaper on FanDuel. This is kind of telling me that like last night, I didn't love the idea of playing on FanDuel, just given the pricing. Tonight might be best to go and head and play on FanDuel. Even Christian Wood's very cheap there, and you can play him at power forward and center. So there's lots of great lineup paths on FanDuel that you could go with, just given the pricing. So that's appealing. All right, let's go ahead and show you guys kind of the rest of this first look build. So I feel like I touched on the slate enough. Murray could sit, which would mean Trae Young would be a decent price point play. James Harden, been a highly consistent fantasy producer. Someone you could easily go out ahead and play tonight, like 50 DK points, certainly within the realm of possibilities. Ant-Man, I do really like as a play, especially given the fact that you can play him at guard or forward. If you end up on him in this price point range to close out your build, yes, certainly play him. Chris Paul, obviously I like as a play. I mentioned that. I think Westbrook going to be a strong price point play for you on the slate. Dinwiddie, just kind of a lock and load, I think, if Luka's out. And then Kemba Walker, I feel like he's priced up a little bit too much because you would just be playing Spencer instead of Kemba. Kemba could still have some appeal and some GPPs. So I'm kind of thinking Luka sits. I'm going to go ahead and put Dinwiddie in there just for now. Obviously, that can change throughout the day. And then forward, Zion, I'm still fine with. Giannis, I'm fine with. Obviously, those are pretty elite plays. If Murray sits, we're looking at Bogdanovich once again. We've seen it time and time again. This is still kind of a cheap price point for the production that he's had. So I don't want to say he'd be a lock, but he'd definitely be someone you want to get some high exposure to if Murray sits. And I guess Banchero here, he is pretty cheap for his recent production. Like, you could be getting 40 DK points, which is what he just did against Atlanta not too long ago, 5 days ago. So also someone I think we could be looking at as a strong price point play. As you guys can see, a lot of salary left over. That's the biggest trouble. Oh, forgot to switch the slide. That's the biggest trouble that we have on this slate, is that there's so much value out there right now, and it's going to be so easy to make a strong, logical build. So we just got to figure out where we want to spend our extra salary. And obviously, as the day goes on, that should become more and more clear. But that's all I have for you guys for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I know it was a little bit longer, but also it was a slate in which needed to be a little bit longer, or the video needed to be a little bit longer for the slate, because there's a lot of slate impacting injury news that we need to touch on for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you did, give a like and subscribe. That helps us be able to put out more content for you guys. All right, let's have a good slate. Just a reminder as well, if you guys want access to any of the tools that you saw in this video, links to that are in the description below, as well as the link to the Discord chat. Get your questions in before lock. If you guys have any questions as well, put those in the comment section and we'll be happy to answer those. All right, thanks for watching and good luck on this slate.